Hey y'all, I know it's late. It really is. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. But I have to tell about this week, and I may have to do it in short videos. God is good. He's really good. Oh, sorry, I'm is acting up. So last year, when Nisi found out about Equip, she knew she had to go, right? And then everything happened like it did. And I honestly didn't know how I was going to get Nisi to Equip, and I didn't know what God had planned. Y'all have to forgive me, my eyes watering. But God showed up and He showed out. And I know that God is not limited by our finite minds. I could have never expected what I have experienced this week. I'll let Nisi testify to her, but for me, I had the privilege last Wednesday before I left of sharing my testimony, and it was only a very... Now, if you ask Pastor, he'll probably tell you I went on too long, but it was very brief in what God allowed me to share. There's so much to my story that I haven't shared, and that's okay, but I was able to. And before church, I kept praying, God, I want boldness, and I want the confidence to stand up there and do what you have asked me to do and to just share what you have done. And that boldness and that confidence followed me 500 miles away. From the time that we left, we made a 4-hour trip, and I'm not going to lie, I had a cops pull me over because I was swerving and asking me if I was okay, but I had gotten tired. But I was bound and determined to get to my first stop and rest. And I made it, and there was no way I was getting a hotel for a couple hours. I just couldn't fathom it. And so we used a boondock, and we were already we were already allowed by the Lord, because since we moved back from Georgia, He's not let us go back to some of the old places we've been. But this time, He did. And my confirmation came from Ryan when he looked at me on Monday before we left, and he said, Mom, I've got to go. He said, I have to go. He said, I have to take care of you, but I also have to finish some things or face some things. And we've been doing a lot of that in this year, a lot. It was facing things for me too, because I hadn't been back since we left. And I knew this time that I didn't want to be in Georgia like I always did. Georgia just had a piece of my heart. There's the people there, the climate, I don't know, something about Georgia. But anyhow, so we get there and we get to our destination where we always boondocked, which is just dry camping. We just slept in the van, and usually I kind of get uncomfortable doing that just because who's around me, whatever else, and we just prayed. I said, God, I said, you hide me, hide my family, and I fell asleep. I slept for 3 good solid hours. Maybe I was tired, but when I woke up, Nisi said the same thing. She said, Mom, do you feel the peace in this vehicle? And I said, yeah, it's heavy. It's thick. And crazy thing is it didn't leave. It stayed with us. And we go on. I kind of struggled a little bit I was getting really tired because I still didn't really sleep really well. But we got to Buena Vista. And I got to hug one of my dear friends in Georgia. She's a kid's God Grammy. She's an amazing woman, and it was one of Nisi's prayers. That's part of why we left early, is because Nisi had wanted to see her Grammy and Poppy. And we did, and we sat and we fellowshiped, and we just enjoyed, and we just sat with the Lord and just kind of was like, look what the Lord has done. And she's seen the kids and all of these things. And we left there and we went and saw Miss Alex, which Miss Alex, that woman's got a lot of strength to her. A lot. And she confirmed some things for me, and I don't even think she realized it. And then my biggest giggle was running out to the hold home place that we stayed at, Dad's place that he had bought, and insisted he was going to not get rid of, and we wound up getting rid of it. There's no peace to it, and I dusted off. I got back my peace because that was the places that hit the hardest in between some things that happened before we left Georgia. So there was some closing of some doors for both Raya and me, and Nisi just being able to be blessed. And again, I tell you, the peace in my vehicle this entire trip is almost indescribable. Because we took a different way and we took a 3-hour detour from where we was originally going, I had to go through Atlanta. Not what I wanted to do, what I had avoided every time, but I had to go through Atlanta. And I don't do traffic really well. Usually I don't. No anxiety, no fear, no nothing. Everything that I was supposed to do, it was calm. Like, I was calm. And we get to campsite and we set up, and I just can't breathe with just the amount and the heaviness of God's presence. It was so thick. I just kept weeping and kept weeping. The more that I thought about God, the more that I thought about the things that he had been doing, I was just weeping. That's all I could do. And so Friday, I met Fran. And this is how I know that God ordained me to be where I was at. Fran found herself in a situation where she didn't have a home. And to anybody that was just looking, they looked like a family camping, a weekend camping trip. To her, this was life. Her boyfriend was an addict. And he got in some trouble. And I believe that God had ordered those steps to put him in jail because he wants to quit, but he didn't know how to quit. Anybody who's been on anything knows that addiction will take the life out of you if you don't find the right places to be or the right connections, and that connection is always going to be God. So I met Fran and her son. My theme this week, I'm telling you, is God is in the details, the very tiny, minuscule details. But it was her daughter that connected the conversation. Her daughter's name was Sarah. She's 21. Connection number one, my Sarah back here, who has a special place in my heart anyhow. She's going to college, and she's really worried about her mom. And when I say God of the details, somehow in our conversation, she got to talking about how still at 21 she sucks her thumb. And when she said that, Nisi was sitting next to me, and there was a peace that just flooded Nisi. And the two of them connected on that level. She's like, I'm accepted. Like, it's okay. And Nisi got a giggle over the fact that she had a boyfriend. Sarah had a boyfriend and still sucked her thumb, so she kind of had to knock down the thought that her papa told her. But Fran, she said, I don't know how to do it. I don't know. And I said, I found myself, and I got to testify. I got to tell of what God has been doing in this last year. The stripping away, the breaking down, the drawing closer, all of the things that did not make sense to what God was doing made sense in that moment. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the connected dots. Not everything is complete that God promised, but I know in that moment that everything that God had been doing for the last year encouraged her. And I know that God will continue to order her steps. And when she was leaving, she told me, you've got to meet Faith. She said, you need to hear Faith's story. And I said, okay. Well, Fran leaves, and a few hours later, here comes Kyle and Jeressa and their precious daughter. And immediately Raya was kindred to these people. Raya will not speak to a stranger unless the Lord tells him to. He's very, very discerning about it. And so, like, he was like, Mom, I've got to go help him. He's putting up a tent by himself. I've got to go help him. And I said, okay, I'm going to let you go. And he's just struck up a conversation. They got to talking and everything else. And I'm setting up supper or something. I don't know what it was. This is Friday. And he comes running over and he says, Mama, you got to meet these people. And I said, okay, baby, give me just a little bit. He says, no, you don't understand. There are people. They have seats on. All weekend long, we were not alone at all. Every campsite that was booked in our loop was a family, a group of believers. Some call it Torah, some call it Torah followers, some call it Messianic, some call it just the whole of scriptures. Some call it cultish, depending on where you go. None of these people were cultish at all. They were very friendly, very down to earth. But Raya found a place right there. I can brag on Raya all day long. I was hesitant about taking him because of the attitudes that we've been dealing with, but he stepped up and he showed out big. That's what he did. He took charge. He made sure that I didn't go anywhere without him going first. He was going to get whatever was going to hurt first to protect us. He didn't have an attitude until Wednesday, and the only reason why he had an attitude with them was because we hadn't slept in 3 days. It was so hot. Partly my fault, but even a ranger had said it wasn't supposed to get that hot. So all weekend long, I'm surrounded by people that believe in God. They follow God and they worship God. They may worship Him different, but I was surrounded by people that belonged to the Lord. Like, they had a hunger for the Lord. God of the details, right? Malachi has been wanting his own little pair of zeet for a while now. And zeet, if you don't know what they are, they're tassels. And in Numbers it talks about it. And for me, it's a personal thing. I quit wearing mine for a while, but I was sitting there worshiping one day and I was playing with my shirt and it had this little string to it, and I heard the Lord say, "Where are they?" Because I had taken my zeets off. And I said, "I just took them off, God. I didn't know why I had taken them off." He said, "I need you to put them back on." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Because for you, it's just a personal reminder that you are mine. And when you're stressed and when things are going bad, because in this year, it's been hard. I'm not going to lie. There's been times that I've been like, God, where are you? I can't hear you. I can't feel you. And I don't see what you're doing." You know, it's funny that and part of the reason why I wanted to share tonight was because of what Brother Tolbert said tonight about dreams and the dreams being crazy. It's almost like he was in my head, because if I shared half of the dreams that I were given, not the normal ones, but the crazy ones, because they are crazy. And it's the same thing with these zeets. It's one of those minor details. But Mac had seen all of them wearing their zeets, and some had hair covered and some did not. And I mean, they were all different walks. It was a very unique group of people. But Mac had very politely said, "Could you make me a pair?" And I mean, they could have laughed him off. They could have told him, "No, we can't do that," or whatever else. And one lady, she come to me and she was like, "I'm going to make him a pair if that's okay." And I said, "Sure." I said, "If that's what you want. I mean, he would love it." And it was just Mac that had asked. But like I said, the God of details. And there's things I'm forgetting. I'm going to get my journal out in a little while and make another video, because this one's getting long. But I'll finish it with the zeet story. They're leaving out Monday. And she pulls back up and she says, "I bet you thought we forgot." And I was kind of telling myself, no, I didn't. She hands me 3 sets. She says, this one's from Malachi, and I made it. And this one's for your little girl, and one of her daughters made it. And then she said, this one is for you. And then she prayed. She said, can me and the girls pray? Her sons were over there talking to the boys. We walk off and she begins to pray. And I kid you not, she begins to pray over me. The scripture that God had been giving me, had me going back to. Sorry, y'all. In Isaiah 54. So those that listen to my testimony remember me saying that I had somebody prophesy over me when I was 13. And all I heard was barren woman. And I shut down. And I didn't listen to what God had to say. But that's not what God was saying at all. On down in Isaiah, it says to the effect of, you will not remember the shame of your youth. And he said that I am your husband. And she began to pray over me, and she began to say how encouraging I was to her, because I have to depend on God in this season. It's like being widowed. I have to depend on God for everything that my children and I need. And it encouraged her, because yes, she has a spouse right now, but he could go tomorrow. And she would have to be in a place where I am right now. And then she said, God, let her never forget who you are. Or Father, let you never forget who you are and what you mean to her and how far you've brought her. Word for word, almost verbatim, what she was praying is what I had been praying. I will continue all of this, but it's been a 20-minute video almost. Don't give up. Don't stop praying. Don't stop drawing closer to Him. He is in every single detail. I did not know if I could do this again. It's tiring. He's tiring. It's frustrating sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. There are days when I feel like I'm losing my ever-loving mind. There are days when I feel like I have failed miserably. There are days that I look at my kids and just want to blame myself because they're missing out on so much. But then there are days that God reminds me of everything that He's doing, everything that He's brought us through, everything that He has taught me. And it gives me the strength to go. And coming out of women's conference, having the boldness and the confidence to share my testimony and look the devil in the eye and say, I will not let shame hold me down. God has called me. He has called me to something. And then hearing Brother Talbert say tonight, and I know it was for young people, but that message wasn't just for young people, because it was all over what God had already confirmed at women's conference. And I have one of those really crazy dreams. Said it, sharing my testimony, and I'll say it again. I'm almost like Sarah hiding in the tent laughing. Me? But I know that if He will take me away and orchestrate every beautiful detail that He has. I don't know what you're praying for. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know what you're seeking. I don't know what you're waiting on, but don't give up, because He is in every detail of everything of your life. This is only the beginning of what I have to tell you has happened this week. And I just pray that you will sleep sweetly tonight and get ready if you are headed to conference, or if you're just one of my peoples on Facebook, just get ready for what God has prepared for y'all. I am so on fire right now, it's not even funny. But I will share the rest of this later. I love y'all. Good night.